Fade in, day. Cut to, interior, ice cream lorry, day. The sound of traffic is heard, police sirens, fire engines and ambulances. There is the sound of whimpering. In frame, a pair of gloved hands examine over an array of cooking instruments, knives and ice cream scoops. Needles cane.
The distant spiraling vortex of the human mind separates man from beast through its ingenuity and imagination. However, like the beast, the mind seeks to satisfy its lust and desires through the means at its disposal. The mind assumes what will bring it out the most pleasure. When a boy faces so many flavors of ice cream, he must make the decision on what to choose. Will he choose plain boring vanilla, sweet fruity strawberry, or maybe the dark, rich taste of chocolate?
The character in focus is Needles Kane, a physically imposing man aged 48 with white pant overalls, suspenders and a clown mask. In one hand he has the scoop, in the other the knife. He stands before a young man tied and gagged. Needles Kane continued.
The boy seeks to answer the question of what flavor will give him the maximum satisfaction, satisfy his senses the most.
Needles Kane taps the scoop against the body of the victim, speculating as to which part he wishes to take. He refers to the parts of the body he taps as the flavors of ice cream.
But as the clock ticks, he spends an abnormal amount of time looking at his waistline, depressed with what his peers will say about his guts leaking over the side of his pants.
Needles Kane strikes his victim in the waist. He thrusts a blade into his side. The blood flows from the open wound to the floor. Needles Kane grasps at the blood as it falls, rubbing it within his gloves. Needles Kane is in focus, watching the blood drip from his fingers as it falls to the lorry floor. Needles Kane continued.
Then there is the topping that stretches and twists over the ice cream. If the mind is stretched too far by the various variables of this world, or overindulges in desire, the mind snaps and loses control, like the sticky topping that finally breaks after the tension is too great.
There is the continuous sound of a police siren that gets closer and closer. A knock sounds on the window of the lorry's service area. Needles Kane continued.
We are closed.
Carl Roberts. Marcus Kane, I have a warrant for your arrest. The front window of the lorry opens to reveal Carl Roberts in shot. He is a detective, 31 years of age, solid build, armed with a gun. Carl Roberts continued. You have the right to remain. Freeze! Needles Kane smashes him repeatedly over the head by means of a block of ice from the lorry chiller. He hauls the detective's body next to the other victim and he jumps into the driver's seat and starts the lorry. Gunshots can be heard from outside the vehicle. Exterior, ice cream lorry, day. The lorry tears down the street, weaving between traffic with a series of squad cars in pursuit. The lorry zooms through a stale red and manages to avoid the traffic coming from its sides. The lorry manages to evade the pursuing squad car through the red light as the lorry just misses a truck heading toward it from the left. Cut to, interior ice cream lorry, day. Needles Kane, in hysterical laughter, looks toward Carl.
What a thrilling day. Roberts, this sort of thing I can get used to. Carnage of coppers, colliding vehicles at high speed, under fire from opponents with the intent to kill. A napalm here and there would be nice, and shrapnel flying everywhere in a storm of twisted metal.
Cut to, exterior, ice cream lorry, day. The lorry cruising forward encounters a police roadblock ahead. Needles Kane plows ahead into the roadblock where the lorry hurtles through the air, landing on its side. Police and fire services swarm on the scene, and the opening credits roll. When he first travelled to Hollywood, this hopeful, young, relatively innocent and highly naive fellow from the South Pacific, and from a country called New Zealand, had drafted a script treatment for a video game series that was among his favourites, to blend both the wacky and zany chaos of the first two iterations on the PlayStation 1 with the darker and more psychologically alarming Twisted Metal Black for the PlayStation 2, and it yielded some interesting results. It is fun, as now an older gent, to reminisce on those somewhat creative efforts of fan fiction from earlier days. Did I make it in Hollywood? No. But I did have a blast for the time I was there. With reference to Season 1 of the show Twisted Metal, I wasn't exactly all that impressed. With my screenplay, I had Jamie Roberts serving as my main protagonist, seeking to find her brother Carl, and within the construct of a feature-length presentation, where amid the vehicular slaughter, we'd cut to the backstories of each driver as one by one they were snuffed out by the competition. Referring to the show again, what the first season did get right was the use of its everyman version that was John Doe.
But there are humble mother like me
to serve as a more grounded character, centre stage and flanked by a bizarre and wacky ensemble. Anthony Mackie was in all respects just fine, came across as an affable figure, although his actions left one to wonder how he'd survived so long. There was plenty of contrived and poor choices in Season 1.
I should be thanking you for shooting me? Which time? Because it gets less and less
I
cute.
would be remiss not to mention the inclusion and misfire of the entirely original character introduced named Quiet and played by Stephanie Beatriz. Not only did she contribute with her own brand of dumb,
Anything you can do, I can do backwards.
but the actress just has this one constant expression, and only one expression that can be simply classified as a resting bitch face. Take out Joe Sanoa and Will Arnett's Sweet Tooth, ignore the title, and Season 1 amounts to a generic post-apocalyptic Mad Max ripoff.
You gotta admire the showmanship.
With Season 2, there was at least some hope of vehicular mayhem, but for a considerable amount of time, we received, well, this.
I never found people who wanted me around.
If you think I'm gonna change my mind, you don't even know me. You dolls steal all the time. It's complicated, kid. Hey, don't call me kid.
I'm not being selfish.
You made your own wish and didn't tell me. You put our lives, the mission, all of us in danger.
This is why I didn't want to tell you.
And that's pretty fucking selfish.
No, this is not what I had in mind. On a positive note, when it does revolve around a Mortal Kombat-style destruction derby, Season 2 has its moments. The issue is, and assuming due to budgetary constraints, they remain just few and far between. Tack on the writer's clumsy retreading of feminist tropes, down with the patriarchy sentimentality, and flimsy allegories about outsiders and insiders, and the season really struggles to make much of any headway. If not continuing with the poor pacing problems from Season 1, beyond the actual moments that somewhat resemble its source material and amount for a slither of the runtime, you may wonder what else then happens over the course of 12 episodes. A fair question. Consider if you can recollect any of these events or stories from the source material. It should become quickly clear that it mostly amounts to padding. There shall be some spoilers from here. Beyond John meandering down memory lane, or of what he can piece together, then reuniting with Quiet and a bunch of both
Wanna
new
try
and
that
old
shit again?
faces,
No one barges into my tent and orders me around, even if they're blood.
some angst and mumbling that is intended as character development having ensued, there's then their efforts to procure better weaponry in anticipation of the Twisted Metal tournament. Aside from the more enjoyable subplot with Sweet Tooth and his new surrogate son Stu, and after 4 episodes of mostly melodrama and monotony with Quiet and John Doe, the tournament finally begins. And it's not half bad.
Axel coming through.
The second round also delivers some decent moments. I suggest you savour what you receive, for it'll feel an age before the next true round. And no, I do not count what briefly follows. An array of masked henchmen unleashed upon the main cast of characters within an abandoned school is not Twisted Metal. It's merely compensation for having to manage a budget. There is then a prom, some cannibalism, a puff of smoke, and then an underwhelming round where it appears that Mayhem shall serve as the next domino to fall in their friendship circle. Of course, they can't have her die. She might be one of the most insufferable characters introduced, somehow managing to outclass the sour Quiet in the unlikability stakes. But alas, life finds a way. The last round does have a few quality moments and surprises, only undermined by the woeful final boss that more resembles something from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers than its original namesake. While this show is more of a facade than a true and faithful adaptation, the biggest issue that undermines everything is its two main characters, and now plus one. The show is at its best when it involves Sweet Tooth, while offering some decent moments with other characters, notably Axel, Grim, Raven, and Calypso. However, Sweet Tooth, supported at times by the goofy Stu, is the only aspect that makes this endeavour at all worthwhile. If hoping to be engaged by the plot, swept up in the world and environment of this version's Twisted Metal, I don't know what else to tell you. It's truly paper thin. I hadn't high hopes for Season 1, although I perhaps expected a little more for Season 2. And no, I haven't much interest in the next installment. It isn't the worst thing ever made. It isn't the Rings of Power, but with the considerable volume of options elsewhere to watch, it simply needed to be better. Less on the filler and more with concentrated Twisted Metal.